Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we are back with another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Friday, May 25th and we are going slow, but I kind of like this laid back, slow approach, even if it does end up making 4 or 5 recordings. I need to play warrior cards, I need to play paladin cards, so this won't be a problem. The main thing is I need to get victories, and the way I'm finding slightly easier to get victories using this Tavern Brawl. This is the first Tavern Brawl I've liked probably ever, because it hands you something really crazy and really stupid. And crazy and stupid works very well for somebody who doesn't play or pay much attention to Hearthstone. Although I have seen other people struggle with it. We've got a ton of games to talk about still, which is crazy because I did filter out yesterday all the bad games, so I'm only covering the bad games that came out this Friday, or before I started streaming. And when we're talking bad games, nothing screams bad games like a game called Zombie Hunter Z, squished together in the title as one word, shown in the thumbnail as actually 2 words. It is a complete and total asset flip. I've determined I really do have to use the asset flip recommend phrase when it is an obvious asset flip, but I'm also going to try to not use it when that is questionable, because there are some very low quality games out there that didn't flip any assets. Let's see, this is from a developer. Zombie Hunters is $2.39 with 20% off. It's from the developer who also made Nazi Shootout, which I don't know why specifically people are so keen on. Let's do on with the show. Time's up. Let's do this. Like, I don't know why people try to make controversial topics of other games. I guess it's just in a, well, I don't know. Like, if you'd asked me a couple decades ago, I would have said that the very low effort games with Nazis in them and such were trying to follow trends like Doom and Wolfenstein, or that they were trying to get controversy to sell more. But now, in this era of, it seems like, fake news, where it seems like entire countries are spending their effort intentionally trying to make controversial topics a thing, just so that just so that it irritates people in America and other people in first world countries, people in the United States, people in Canada. Like, it seems like there are just entire countries and entire groups of people out there that are actively attempting psychological warfare and trying to get people upset with each other. So maybe that's the point now, is just to troll people, and they've taken trolling to the point of a form of psychological warfare. Like, the difference, I would say, from a real troll and somebody who's doing it because our government's funding them, is the fact that the government's funding them for a reason. Like, I would think most trolls, if you were with them face to face and you're like, "You're trolling me, right? You're just goofing. You're just having a laugh." They go, "Yeah, we're just playing around." Yeah, they bring down the facade, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm just joking. Like, don't take this seriously." Whereas, I don't know. That's more of a question than a statement, because I really have no clue why so many games are always going with the zombies and the Nazis and everything. It's just cheap and lazy is probably a major factor. Another loss, but I'm still liking this. It is a testament that I'd much rather play this Tavern Brawl more than play ranked play. Your Gamer has an article, and I kind of disagree with this because I think the only people talking about this game are the general mainstream video game media. Like, I haven't seen anybody really talk about it at all. But Your Gamer has this article: Valve slammed over a horrendous Steam school shooting game, active shooter from the maker of White Power Pure Voltage. It's right in line with what I was just talking about. No coincidence there. I knew that was the next article. Let's see. Some of Your Gamer's article saying this is just a week after the Santa Fe high school shooting in Texas saw 10 people fatally shot. That's not really fair for to put that blame on anybody publishing any game, because you really can't go a month without there being an active shooting somewhere. There's always some kind of controversy, and if you're trying to sell your article on controversy, you'll be able to certainly pull that off. Active shooter is due for release on the 6th of June, so it hasn't even come out, and that's why I haven't seen it. Is a dynamic SWAT simulator. The idea is you're sent in to deal with the shooter at the school, but you can also play as the actual shooter gunning down school children. Well, I guarantee you Steam's not going to let that sit on for sale for very long. Like, because that is very not something that we've seen too much of. Also, this is something that they claimed that Rockstar's Bully game had at some point. There was such bad reporting on the game Bully that they're saying that you could run around and shoot children in the school, and it's not the case. Maybe you can shoot kids with a slingshot. I'm just gonna keep playing this, and then I'm gonna play this and this. I think this is not gonna work well, so I'm gonna end the turn. The developer's called Revived Games. The publisher also made a game called Dab Dance Twerk and White Power Pure Voltage. So clearly this is just a troll developer. If I'll say anything about this game, Active Shooters, it probably is an asset flip, but it's a better looking asset flip on the screenshots than most asset flip things. And there was a BBC article that was total, like, poorly written and badly sourced, that we'll play that. There was a BBC article saying there was a game like this, and earlier this year, and that was totally wrong. Let's see. Here's the real question, though. I'm gonna go over back to Steam, and I'm going to search the name of this game and see if it's even listed.
The thrill of the hunt.
This jungle hides many secrets.
It is actually listed. It's saying it's coming out June 6, 2016. this is not a game I bet that ever comes to release. And inherently, this is one of the things about Valve and Steam, is that there is a considerable number of there's a considerable number of games that get announced and have trailers and have everything that you would think would make it seem like it's a game that's actually coming out, but it simply just never does, because Valve actually does look at games before they release and they're actually submitted. All that's been submitted right now to Valve is the screenshots and the videos, which very possibly have never were even looked at, or frankly, even if it was looked at.
This jungle hides many secrets.
Yeah, recent updates. Clarification here, it says, since the game's storefront has been live, I've been stormed with accusations and heavy criticisms from people across the globe. While I see everyone's point of view and where they're coming from, I wanted to clarify a few things. First of all, this game does not promote any sort of violence, especially any sort of mass shooting. As I state in the description, Active Shooter is essentially a dynamic SWAT simulator with the dynamic roles are offered to players. It is also worth pointing out that in the real world, people do train with SWAT people, and people do act as the active shooter or terrorist or bad guys in the real world using, you know, paintball guns and such. So if you can do it in the real world, there's really not any reason to say you can't do it in the video game. Let's see, we need to play warrior and paladin cards. Let's try to play paladin. Where is paladin? Murloc paladin, ranked play, might as well. Originally, when this game started the course of development, I had planned on having SWAT-only based gameplay. Then I thought of adding more gameplay to it to add additional roles, the shooter and the civilians. I've wrote to Valve regarding the game and waiting for them to reply after receiving such high amount of critics and hate. I will more likely remove the shooter role from the game by the release unless it can be kept right now. Thanks a lot. So the developer is on the defense, saying that probably by the time it comes out, you're not even going to have the ability that people are writing complaints about for a game that's not available to purchase yet. It seems a little weird to make a controversy before there's a controversy. Now, in fairness, there are in this trailer incidences where somebody is shooting civilians. Like there is definitely a counter going up as you're shooting civilian. Now I'm not sure I actually see any students here or just teachers, because it seems like there's really only one model or one or two models in the game. So there may not even be any children in here. I would argue that this might be a good incidence where you'd be better off going away from realistic guns and turning it into something like paintball. Take it a step away from being reality. But then I can't also, I'm not going to dance around here and pretend like this developer doesn't know what he's doing. This guy is completely a fake game maker. This is completely just a attempt to create controversy. But my problem here is that Eurogamer has fallen right for their trick. Like, this is either you need to not bother to respond to it, which would be the best response. Frankly, there's no reason to even have mentioned this game ever existed, because nobody's ever gonna see it. And this really is just an article from Eurogamer saying we need more active, proactive censorship of Steam. It's just a pro-censorship article, really, where the market will decide very quickly that nobody was interested in this game and nobody's going to buy it.
I'm warning you.
Heck, there might even be an argument to say, let this be on Steam. That way, if anybody buys it, Valve can just email the local authorities of anybody that would play a game like that. Like, this is a potential evidence creation tool. So, really a non-controversy until it comes out, until something happens. And it would have to be something big that would have to happen. The game would have to come out, somebody would have to love to play it, and then go shoot up a school. And let me tell you, just speaking generally, people that are big into guns, the people that usually end up shooting up schools, not so into playing obscure, never heard of garbage Steam games. They're playing the average game that most kids are playing these days, the Call of Duties, Modern Warfares type things, and those games have long since burdened any blame that they didn't really deserve. Moving on, next game we have is called Digital Dungeon. It says it's an indie action strategy single player arena shooter. I would like to see more games get away from shooting as a mechanic. This game, in fairness, it at least has a zapper, blue zap gun. It's not realistic guns, it's like space guns. And I wouldn't mind seeing more of that too.
Put this apple on your head.
Reporting for duty.
I don't know how many paladin cards I'm really playing. This is Digital Dungeon Element. Let's see. It has one all-time peak. It's $6.99. You're not shooting other people. You're shooting like flying drones, too, which is interesting. Certainly, they've put a spin on here. You're like a criminal in a virtual reality prison with a zapper shooting drones and towers, but it's not a virtual reality game. Let's see, this is from a developer who's made several other games, and none of them have gotten enough reviews to even get a rating. Let's see, Stickman fighting is the one that sticks out in my as being maybe particularly bad, but I think I'm gonna wishlist Digital Dungeon. It looks like it's more of a puzzle type experience than you would first think. Let's do this. Next game we have on Steam is called Achievement Machine. It gives you 5,000 achievements. we don't need to talk about a company that it's from a developer that it's pretty well known for making fake games, achievement games. Let's see. I'm still interested in Scarlet Grace, Saga Scarlet Grace, which is coming out for the PS4, Switch, PC, and smartphones, and they have a comparison gameplay platform differences. So, but it is really just in text. So, it's like PS4 Pro is 4K, Switch is 1080p in docked mode, Steam is configurable in the options, iOS and Android depends on the model. It seems like these are not particularly helpful bits of information to hand to people. Max frame rates is 60 frames per second. The textures will be high for Steam, Switch, and PS4, and standard for cell phones. Steam includes a video file, the other two include an opening movie. I don't understand the reason there. You get trophies on PS4, trophy achievements in Steam, and achievements on Android, but not iOS. That is definitely not what I was interested in, though. I want to see what it actually visually looks like. And when I scroll down to some screenshots, they all look like they're mobile phone graphics. I think I'm gonna have to give up with Saga Scarlet Grace. It's one of those names that is interesting to my ear more than the game itself actually is when I look at it. Hit this.
The battle.
That.
Job's
In
done.
return. Gematsu has an article. The 7 Deadly Sins game Grand Cross of Light and Darkness has been announced for smartphones. 7 Deadly Sins being a Netflix anime, Netflix popularly supported anime based on the manga. Although I don't think Netflix is actually being involved in this at all. I liked the first season of the 7 Deadly Sins, but when I went back and tried to see that second season, which was really just 4 episodes, it didn't catch my attention.
I should beat you.
Very much so. Most of the things on Steam, on Netflix now, are not catching my attention. I just don't feel like sitting down and watching what Netflix has to offer. But the same is kind of true for TV. So I'm just kind of in this forever funk of I probably could be doing something better with my time. Although I don't particularly have a clue or a thought as to what that would be. There we go. Finally.
The battle.
Let's get this rank play victory. The cell phone games don't interest me, and they shouldn't really interest anybody else. And this one doesn't look particularly great. So moving on. So at the end of Wednesday's stream, we said Dark Souls Remastered came out. It is out on Steam. It is mixed reviews. 64% of 2,745 reviews are positive. So it'll be interesting to know what the negatives are. It has an all-time peak of today of $20,997 players. It's selling for $39.99. I think part of the problem is that people are not happy with they're not happy with losing or the Dark Souls Prepare to Die edition being removed and then them being forced to have this version. The first review is not recommended. Hello From Software, I'm glad after all these years you finally gave us a patch that we've been waiting for. Now, did you fix Lost Idsen? No. Did you give us omnidirectional control? No. Did you improve the game actually in any way other than making the frame rate stable? No. Are you actually expecting me to pay £20 for that? Yes. Hello, Steam refunds. So, the main complaint I imagine is from people who wanted a much bigger and better patch, and they're not getting that, which is a problem with Japanese companies in general. Is that they, particularly on PC, kind of release bad PC ports. They're getting better, but then now they've moved more into the area where they promise patches, and then those patches never come. I'm pretty sure that Nier Automata promised a patch nearly a year ago, and it's not gonna happen. So yeah, there's definitely some issues about just having good quality products. Remember, the video game world for many decades, with the exception of Nintendo kind of enforcing a level of quality, but not by much, the video game world has been heavily built around making toys that don't really have to be too high quality, and because they figure they're just selling to kids and kids won't complain, and for the most part that was true. Now it's not so much. The next not recommended review says, did you enjoy the original PC release of Dexter? Well, in your luck, players are using all your favorite hacks to invade your game and destroy your save file. It's the very same issues from Software knew about 7 years ago, and have been remastered so you can be exploited once again. If you enjoy losing hours of your time to someone who's, based on their Steam comments, already did it a dozen times to other players without punishment, this is the game for you. If you're worried From Software might patch out these issues, don't worry. For years they've never bothered to fix the original and relied on the efforts of modders to make the game playable. Based on what I've seen so far, From Software won't let you down. Fun fact, Steam declined my refund because I spent 7 hours in this game.
None can escape my fury.
There is one recommended reviewer, and even the recommended says, warning, some people are using hacks while invading to get you banned. Let's see, next not recommended, can't recommend paying $20 or $40 US dollars to get what free mods gave you on the original Dark Souls. Now, for my instance, I still am gonna favorite this Dark Souls version because I don't think I have any of the Dark Souls games on Steam. So Dark Souls Remastered probably is the right one for me as somebody entering in a new time. And I imagine I can just firewall block people, which is what I'd want to do anyways, so that people couldn't invade. I think that whole concept was stupid in the first place. Let's see, is my timer running? Yes, it is. So I have about 14 minutes now to wrap up here. Gamasutra has an article, the future of PlayStation may be portable, says Sony exec. I think that's probably a bad thought, like really bad. Let's see, off the heels of the news that the next PlayStation might be as little as 3 years away, Sony's new PlayStation chief John Kodera has hinted at the possibility of Sony re-entering the portable games market, according to a report in Bloomberg News. What that portable game console might look like is still shrouded in secrecy, and that's pretty much all I need to read of this article.
Put this apple on your head.
A portable Sony device makes sense. It being the PlayStation 5 does not make sense unless they're doing something really like groundbreaking. Next we have a game called Stargazer Program. It's an action casual shoot 'em up 2D arcade game. It looks a lot like Galaxia, but it has a bit of a weird twist to it too. It's got some different types of enemies and more of a crazy experience. Seems like it might be multiplayable with one ship at the bottom of the screen and one ship at the top, and you're shooting at enemies in the middle, which is certainly a slightly interesting concept. And so, while it is way too expensive at $5.99, this actually looks like it might be a decent effort of a game. It's not an asset flip, it doesn't seem like. It's not horrible in mispaint graphics, while it still is pretty old, like pre-NES level pixel art. But it's something I want to keep an eye on. Let me look at the studio. It's the first game from this developer, so I'm gonna put it on the wish list just to keep an eye on it. But it certainly is a game just on the visual appearance alone that I would know I'm not going to buy it for that price. Maybe play that. Gamma Sutra has an article. Sony takes a page from Microsoft by licensing customizable PS4 gamepad. Let's see. This new gamepad. The Vantage is called the Vantage. It's expected to launch in the USA this summer, and developers can look at the PlayStation blog. It's got some kind of triggers in the back to pull, but left bump, right bump, and it is the D-pad on the PlayStation 4 always at the bottom? I didn't think it was. I thought it was. Magic shall not save. I should have done that. I should have put it over here.
Reporting for duty.
Yeah, I think this PlayStation 4 has the Xbox alignment where the left stick is at the top and the D-pad's on the bottom, where the PlayStation controller has the other alignment where the D-pad's at the top and the two analog sticks are at the bottom. And there's like some kind of side bumps, and the thought of adding a third bump is crazy. Like an R3 or R4 on PlayStations. That's a crazy idea. Gamma Sutra has an article. Wargaming Seattle is shutting down. Word is spreading today that Wargaming Seattle is shutting down, potentially eliminating over 100 jobs. This is a big deal given that Wargaming Seattle is the Redmond-based studio formerly known as Gas Powered Games, which was founded in 1998 by Chris Taylor and other former Cave Dog devs. During its lifetime, Gas Powered became known for the series like Dungeon Siege and Supreme Commander, as well as early Dota-alike game called Demigod.
The battle for justice.
Let's see. But after a failed Kickstarter campaign, the Healing Studio was acquired by Wargaming in 2013. Taylor wound up leaving the studio in 2016, so without Taylor to guide it, or maybe Wargaming was just trying to buy some licenses and fire the employees. Took them quite a while. If it took them 2 years to shut the place down.
There once was a man from
in the meantime, developers around the industry are sharing potential job leads via Twitter and hashtag WGJobs to try to help former Wargaming Seattle developers get back on their feet. The hashtag previously appeared in late 2016 after Wargaming shut down the Bellevue-based mobile game company Studio WG Cells. So, one of the issues that is kind of a problem with the video game industry is that the people, a large amount of the people that get jobs are getting those jobs because they know somebody in the industry. And so you have a direct and obvious example of this where they want to keep people who are working in the video game industry working in the industry where there's no equal effort or concern to get new people into the industry, get people that you don't know into the industry, get people that quite frankly might be better qualified into the industry. It's not a meritocracy where it's based on merit, it's based on who you know, and that's just not the best way to run a business or run an industry. An update here says a former Wargaming Seattle dev tells Game Sutra that a surprise all-hands meeting was called in the studio this morning, and during the meeting, Wargame Chief Victor Kaiser announced the entire studio, estimated to employ roughly 150 people, would be shut down. Also, a representative of Wargaming offered the following statement: I can confirm that Wargame will be closing their Redmond development studio as part of the company's restructuring process. Every member of the 150-strong team that has been working on an unannounced MMO project will be offered a severance package. So part of this may very well be it was rather ridiculous to try to make an MMO even in 2016. Like, there's one MMO for as much as I'm concerned, and it's World of Warcraft, and everything else is nothing. Not even like the Elder Scrolls Online or GTA Online are worth mentioning. Let's see. Wargaming will be assisting the current employees of Redmond Studio if they decide to apply for open positions at other offices within the company. We would like to express our gratitude and thank everyone on the team for their hard work. Thank you so much. You've been laid off. It's like, that's gratitude for you. I would like to say, I don't know if it really ever was true, I would like to say that there was a time where you were loyal to your employees and you would find a job for them even if you really didn't need them. Just so you don't have to lay them off. Game Sutra has the weekly jobs roundup. Rovio, Saber Interactive, Spain, and more are hiring. So if you want to be a gameplay engineer for Skydance Interactive in Marina del Rey, California, or user research specialist for Rovio in Espoo, Finland, or a lead Unreal Engine 4 developer for Modumate in San Francisco, California, or a lead designer for Giant Enemy Crab in Seattle, Washington, or a backend developer for Saber Interactive Spain in Alcobendas, Madrid, Spain. Madrid must be really big to have to say their neighborhood. So that's the job listings. Don't want to spend too much time on them. It's kind of weird to have an article talking about Yumi Nikki Dream Diary again, considering it just kind of flopped and came out, and it's this weird game that I don't think too many people even knew existed in the first place. But it had some small niche appeal, certainly. and so the remake was catching at least a small number of people's attention. But then they've come out with a 2.0, which is saying a lot, and that means you've completely changed everything. Basically, you've added enough features to have as many features as the 1.0. This isn't a 1.1 patch or fixing bugs or anything like that. But then again, 2.0 is probably not to be taken literally in this instance as much as it is just an advertisement for we tried to improve things. So they said they added new areas, concept art, effects, and more. Let's see. Added several new areas to the game, new concept acts, added some new effects, mini games, now save high scores when quitting. Added audio when the girl in the school disappears. Added some missing effects in the mall. Added the option to adjust brightness of the game. Improved the performance of the eyeball wave. Added some more secrets. Improved AI of NPC that chases you. And then a ton of bug fixes. So let's look at this game on Steam and see how it looks now.
For justice.
Because before it was overall it was mixed at 61% positive of 575 users, which is quite a small number of reviews. But in the last 30 days, it's mostly positive with 71% of 21 users reviews. So by fixing some things and improving some things, that's great. Now, arguably, you're still taking this Yume Nikki Dream Diary, which is the sequel to Yume Nikki, or a remake of Yume Nikki, in a very different direction. And so there is still a contingent of just like, what are you doing and why you're ruining this niche product that people really liked. Although I would argue that that's not really the case. I don't really think they're ruining anything. Keep on getting victories, so I'm gonna keep on playing. Let's see. It says, here's a recommended review that says the 2.0 update also adds some more areas in the style of the old game. The recommended review goes, if you're expecting a 3D remake of Yume Nikki, this is not it. However, this is a very nice game with its own gameplay and style to it, and I enjoyed it as a separate thing from the original. The 2.0 update also adds some more areas in the style of the old game. Well, I'm gonna leave this tab open just to make sure I have this wish listed. I think I do. It's still gonna be a tough sell, though. It's just such a neat niche product, much more than most of the niche products I consider. Let's do this.
I must move quickly.
Next game we have on Steam is called Skip Sanity, which is a bunch of MS Paint 5-second micro games, kind of like WarioWare. They are not visually appealing at all, but then they are also 5-second micro games. It is a different way to sell yourself, certainly. Instead of making a game that has to be fully polished and good looking, you can say, well, I only designed this to be played for 5 seconds, so you get what you get. Even WarioWare was partially built around that concept of.
Your magic shall
That
not
being
save.
said, Skip Sanity is the only game developed by this developer, so I'm not sure I'm willing to give that level of a chance to him. Let's see, particularly since he wants $14.99 and there's no reviews. I think the price is just too high. While I do want a WarioWare micro game type game, I'm not willing to pay that much for it. Gamatsu has an article, Black Clover Quartet Night launches September 13th in Japan, and they have like nothing else to say here, other than it will launch in the Americas and Europe at some point in 2018. No actual date announced. I guess I kind of like the idea of no actual date announced. ReZero Life in Another World in VR for the PlayStation VR is now available in Japan. This is a VR hanging out with anime characters simulators that have started to become more and more the rage. Let's see. So you can get cozy with Amelia or Rim. There's 3 modes: a lap sleeping mode, lay your head in Amelia or Rim's lap to be gently put to sleep. You have co-sleeping mode, lay next to Amelia or Rim to put you to sleep. Or appreciation mode, where you can view a 1-to-1 scale VR figure of Amelia Rim at any angle you like in 360 degrees. So it is also available for PC, and let's see. But you cannot get it from Steam. You have to download it from a Japanese site, which certainly will be able to navigate all of that text. Next game we have on Steam is called Office Quest. Let's see, it says it's an indie adventure. Every day in the office is the same, clicking same keys, attending the same boring meetings, wearing the same fluffy monster onesies until something strange magical happens. Now you need to sneak away no matter how. This has a weird animation in it, certainly, where all the people in your office are wearing these fluffy monster onesies for no real reason, as far as I can tell, and it has a sepia tone brown palette to it. See, this does just feel like it is going to be a quite farcical point and click adventure, if I was to guess. It's $8.99, no discount. And it's got some awards apparently, and there's 7 positive reviews and no negative reviews, and the visual appeal and the farcical nature of it, it probably is closer to like a Telltale, an old Sam & Max Telltale game, not a pure, I guess that's what I would call it, point-and-click adventure game. This is the first game from this developer, but I'm definitely going to wishlist this. Let's see. Let's see. And Total Biscuit was already muted, so I guess maybe I could unmute him, but I don't think so because Jenna Bain is still gonna tweet things.
Quickly.
Out of my jungle!
I have a game on Steam called Fallen Bird. It's a action indie 3D platformer, it says, but it seems like it's heavily relying on pre-bought assets.
Put this apple on your head.
Let's see. Just in this turn. Yeah, Fallen Bird seems like it's a getting over it like game, like where you're just trying to get higher and higher. It's from a developer who's made one other game called Nana in the Dark that's rated positive. Let's see. What is this? This game Nana in the Dark looks more interesting than Fallen Bird. Well, I'll wishlist Nana in the Dark, which is this action-adventure indie story-rich horror game where you're running around what looks like a teenage girl. Just woke up in this apartment and you're being chased.
I wonder.
And they're 3D models, so it's not an anime style or anything like that. And the 3D-ness of it is slightly interesting. Because I would have heavily expected this to be... Seems like you fight the enemies with a flashlight, kind of in the same way that that game... What was that game that I played recently, about a year ago? Alan Wake. Yeah, it's kind of like Alan Wake. Do I really need to say anything about Fallen Bird though? It's $4.49 for a game I wouldn't buy, but it has caught my attention from this developer. So I'll try this other one that's positively reviewed. That's a weird thing certainly to say, that a bad game might point me to one of your good games. I guess it's kind of true. However, next we have a game called Super Sport Matchin'. Sport Matchin' being one word. It looks like a NES version of those, like a Olympics games for the NES, and it looks like an update to a game like that. Let's see, is this a single player and local multiplayer co-op? It's $14.99. The thing about this pixel graphics is it's zoomed in a lot more, so you're not looking at a 8 pixels from what 8 pixels would look like at a 1080p screen. You're looking at what the equivalent of 8 pixels in the old days would look like had they been scaled up. Let's see. Just keep irritating these guys. So this is the first game from this developer. It was $14.99. The publisher that is publishing it also made Iconoclasts, which is a game I've heard of. And Brave Earth Prologue, which is not out yet. And Crosscode, which is rated positive. So, I guess I will wishlist all of these. Or at least look at them. Crosscode looks like it might be interesting, rated very positive at 92% in the last 30 days. I need to keep on playing.
Move quickly.
Alright, let's.
Your magic shall
I
not
want to
save
win
you.
here, so let's do this. Like I know I'm more focusing on winning than actually playing the cards I need to play, but whatever. Iconoclast is very positive also. Like, we're getting all the bonus streaks today. And like we may go into a silent post show today. Brave Earth Prologue isn't out yet. Brave Earth Prologue, in fairness, is the one game that looks like it's potentially not as good. So I'll close that one until it actually comes out. Eurogamer has an article. We have a few developer response to the ban by the Australian clarification board. It's pretty obvious that it, let's see, update says the Australian classification board has released a new statement more fully explaining the game's depiction of drugs that has fallen foul of the board's strict rules. The board believes that We Happy Few's drug use mechanism, making the game progression less difficult, constitutes an incentive or reward for drug use, and therefore the game exceeds the R18 classification that states drug use related to incentives and rewards not permitted. Which, refusing classification by the Australian board means it cannot be bought or sold, or I think even imported into the country. Let's see if We Happy Few, and I'm sure Gearbox is very upset about this too. Like the thing here is the Australian review board is not going to back down on this. If there was any thought that maybe they would, it's pretty much proven now that that is not the case. So there's gonna have to be either a completely different version, or this game is simply not going to be sold in Australia. Good news, I suppose, is that the Australian classification board doesn't really immediately, in my mind, inspire somebody else to also refuse classification. So I heavily suspect it will still get released in the countries it was suspecting it was going to get released in, like Europe and Japan and the United States and such. So, like, I don't think we're going to see the PEGI rating system also refusing to classify it, or the ESA refusing to classify it, or the CERO system refusing to classify it. Probably wasn't ever going to be allowed in China anyways. A lot of countries, it was never going to be allowed in the first place. We've got a game on Steam called Wanted Killer VR. It's a VR shooter with bullet time. The thing that I would say about this game compared to so many other shooters is this has kind of a Borderlands-esque cell shading animation to it. It's bright and colorful. Let's see. Let's go play this. You're running and gunning while you're shooting. So they figured out some kind of control there. Sadly, this VR, it's $9.99. So I still have really no reason to wishlist VR games. It has 33 positive reviews. But if you do have a VR system, I think Wanted Killer VR might be one of the games you want to play. As a game that looks like an actual game. It has had an all-time peak of 12 people online and came out May 23rd, so like, you're still very, very niche as far as what companies and and what the number of people that have VR is. PC Gamer has an article. Apple has rejected the Steam Link app for iOS. According to Valve, Apple revoked its approval, citing business conflicts with app guidelines, which is to say this is going to turn into a fight. I'm not 100% sure why they even would have rejected it, because I don't think, unless there's something in the works that we don't know about as far as Apple, like I don't think there's much of a conflict there. There's games on the Apple TV, yes, but the Apple TV and none of the other Apple computers have any kind of service or product that streams games or streams video of games to the iPhone. And this is again just an example of Apple being Apple and Apple being monopolistic and in danger of getting in trouble. Close that. Gamasutra has an article. Mixer rolls out MixPlay, a tool for creating interactive streams overlays. But Mixer is the Microsoft service that nobody's going to use. In fact, nobody's going to use it so much that I instead made an account on a third beta software called Caffeine. Gamasutra has an article. Caffeine rolls out stream monetization program complete with payouts for devs. So I made an account there. Not anywhere close to doing anything with it. If everybody moved to Caffeine instead of away from Twitch and YouTube, that would be crazy, but if it happens, I'd be kind of cool with it, assuming that Caffeine doesn't turn into a bad place for me to host my content. Right now it's pretty much in beta and we don't know anything about it. Let's see, we already talked about that. Yo-Yo Games opens a publishing division to elevate Game Maker Studio 2 projects. So the creator of Game Maker Studio 2 is Yo-Yo Games, and they're making new offices, and the last thing I want is more Game Maker Studio games or RPG Maker Studio games or other things. Maybe that is why I've seen less RPG Maker games, is that they've started to push more people just to Game Maker Studio. Let's see, Guns of Icarus Alliance showed up on my list, so you can get the game for free, I believe, between May 24th and May 29th for Memorial Day, so that's why that showed up. We have a game on Steam called Adventures in Mike, which is a very nice graphical game, but it is just an infinite runner, jumping and collecting platforms. I lost. Darn it, there goes my streak. But let's just keep on playing. Well, actually, how are we? Let's move over to the Americas account just for a moment. Like, just to see what we're gonna do, because this is gonna be a silent post show. Like, I'm going to run out of things. We're going late. I don't want to make another 45 minutes recording. Yeah, so Adventures of Mike. Very pretty. but not really anything but a simple infinite runner game. It's these 25% off for 75 cents. Let's see. If I roll that, win 2 games in class. So if I come over here and like my main account is now probably the lowest ranked account I have. So I have a mid-range hunter. I do in wild. Let's see. There's only one review in Chinese that's positive for this game. It's not an achievement game, and it's actually rather pretty, but maybe this is just a really good effort in as far as a asset flip. I don't know. The previous game from this developer is not as pretty looking, and it's still just a platforming jumping game. So Adventures in Mike certainly stood out in my appearance. It's just like this weirdly, slightly too visually appealing game for a very simplistic puzzle. Next game we have is called Hot Pink, and it's neon hot pink games, and it's like a casual action score attack game. It seems like it's out of crazy. It's a crazy interactive. So if it's a score attack game, you may simply just launch a ball, kind of like Arkanoid, and then yeah, it's just an Arkanoid clone with a mouse and neon. It's very pretty for an Arkanoid clone, but I don't think I'd ever buy an Arkanoid clone on Steam, particularly since this one is 20% off for $7.99. And Hot Pink is a pretty bad name for a game. And the only other game from this developer is a game called Berserkers, which that only got 6 reviews from a game from 2015. And it seems to be a game where you're chasing creatures as a bear. Chasing like moles or something.
I wonder.
And this game is still early access. I think that's the #1 problem here. Is that how can you make another game when your other game is still in early access?
Quickly.
So I'll close Hot Pink. 2 more. We already talked about that job listing. And I read the article on Gamma Sutra that was written by, what's her name? It says at the bottom. Apparently this lady is gonna, Kathleen Cross, a PhD student in sociology who researches antisocial behavior online and gaming critic whose work has appeared in numerous publications. This Catherine Cross, I guess I don't need to look her up. She wrote an article on Gamma Sutra talking about the Morals in Media Moral Panic group that is now called itself. Their new name is the Center for Sexual Exploitation or something. And they were claiming victory about getting all the porn visual novel sex games off Valve. That, by the way, none of those came off Valve. Valve said, oh, that we sent that in error. Now maybe in a week or two, a month or two, we'll get into a position where all those games do get kicked off Valve, but Valve themselves specifically said that organization had nothing to do with it. So that is a thing. She wrote this article talking about other ways that organization had done some shady things, how they were trying to co-opt the hashtag #MeToo movement, hashtag Time's Up movement, and how they were trying to do some pretty nefarious and ultra-conservative things as far as their agenda, while still sounding like they were official and mainstream and like saying things that people would agree with, when really they meant things that people wouldn't agree with. So this lady has now run another article that I'll say if you're interested. You can read, Catherine Cross. It says it's called Opinion, so you want to talk about porn on Steam, with a picture of Bayonetta. There's a quote here: Valve could stand to learn the lessons from so painfully absorbed by feminists in the 1980s and 1990s. Cultural criticism of erotic art is necessary, but categorical censor is next to impossible. Which I guess I will agree that any art is perfectly fine to be criticized. That's what I do as a critic, so it's hard for me to disagree with that. Let's see. And then there's another picture of a visual novel called Kindred Spirits on the Roof, which is, I believe, a lesbian visual novel, romance novel. And then there's another picture of, what is this? Lady Killer in the Bind. That's what I thought this was, which is a, I think, male homosexual novel revolving around BSDM. Then Dragon Age Inquisition, which had all kinds of sex scenes in it. So I imagine her full article is worth a look at if you're interested. I don't know how much of a story really to make of it though, because there's kind of this, it's kind of a non-story at this point until it becomes a story again. PC Gamer said Porn has an article. Pornhub just launched a VPN service for mobile and desktop. The mobile app is free, but there's also a premium version that ditches the ads. So if you want to use a VPN to look at porn or other things, I guess, like, it would be $12.99 a month or $89.99 a year for the ad-free version. That is, I guess, an opportunity. Let's see. Rock Paper Shotgun has this article, Confessions of a Teenage Asset Ripper, which I believe is a teenager who was stealing assets from games and making other RPG Maker games using those assets. Not really an article that needs to be read, in my opinion. Let's see. This, and then this, 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 this. There. Let's see. Galactic Civilizations 2, the Ultimate Edition, came out December 2nd, 2011, but it's somehow on my list. It may be another game that is free. Free giveaway until Saturday, 5/27, 10 Pacific. 10 a.m. or 10 p.m.
How long can this go on?
So another free game for Memorial Day. It seems like they're giving away more games on Steam, which is weird. Steam may be losing a little bit of steam. Just because of controversies and competition. Let's see. Gammaster has an article. Rainbow Skies launches June 26th in North America and June 27th in Europe. What is Rainbow Skies? It looks like an isometric perspective JRPG. Doesn't look terrible, but it doesn't look anything particularly special either. Just, you know, it would be a really good looking mobile game and a poor looking console game. And since it's coming out for the PS3 and PS4 and PS Vita, that's telling you that there's some weirdness there. Again, hard to justify playing a JRPG that doesn't have some name recognition behind it, like Final Fantasy. Let's see, Muv-Luv and Muv-Luv Alternative is launching for the PS Vita June 8th in Europe and June 12th in North America. As the acclaimed visual novels have been dated. Let's see. I don't know if these are dating visual novels, probably, but do they have nudity in them? Let's see. Maybe, maybe not. It's hard to tell. Close to impossible to tell. This. But they're coming out for the Vita only, so even if that was true. And then we have this game called Ultimate Racing 2D that is really, really small pixel art for racing cars. But it looks like a classic arcade racing game that I have some nostalgia for. There was this arcade game where you would turn the steering wheel. It was very attractive to young kids in particular. And you're just going in circles trying to control your little dot characters. It's $9.99, which I would argue is probably too much, but it has 300 different cars, 35 different racing classes, 45 racing tracks. It's giving you a good number. There's only like 1 negative versus 27 positive reviews. They're complaining about the multiplayer, and multiplayer is included, and I'm surprised it even has that. So Ultimate Racing 2D looks like a better version of some games I've seen other people try to do. Alright. Just gonna keep on attacking. And then we have a game called 303 Squadron Battle Britain that is an early access flying game, and it looks pretty. Maybe one of these days I would convince myself to play one of these military dogfighting flyer games. They don't really interest me too much. This is 10% off for $17.99. If you're into dogfighting flying games, this is probably a good one. It has 4 negative reviews versus 19 positive reviews. So maybe it has some slight problems. Let's see. Like, one not recommended says you can't change keyboard controllers. One not recommended says missions fail without reminding you what you were supposed to do. But for the most part, I think it would be a game if that's your type of game. But that is kind of a niche type of games too. And that leaves me at the Humble Bundle. And there's no new Humble Bundle. Still, Cosplay 2.0 ebooks is the most interesting one I've seen. So I can go over to Twitter now. And let's see. Let's try a quick Murloc victory. Like, ideally, I should play my main account and try to get it up to rank 19, but like the European and Asian accounts managed to get up to, but I really don't care enough to play extra, particularly since I know there's going to be some silent post-show here anyways. So now I'm just scrolling down the Twitter account. I have this entire game to scroll down, and then I'm going to end this talking portion. It's been a pretty good one. Let's see. Any new games that come out will be talked about, I guess, on Monday, because I'm sure there are more games that have come out. We're really just looking for any news. Right. This, and then this.
That's incredible.
This.
Didn't go as
Trivia Vault is releasing yet another Trivia Vault game. Susan Wojcicki, the CEO of YouTube, is promoting YouTube Music service, which, in all honesty, shouldn't have been her business quite literally. Like, the Google Music
That's incredible.
is clearly a big enough company that it doesn't need to be under the YouTube brand, or at the very least the YouTube purview. Like, they could both use the same name, but they needed to be different companies completely. And her being more interested in YouTube music means she's even less interested in fixing the many problems with YouTube.
That's incredible.
Let's see, episode 906 of Hearthstone aired on my channel 3 hours ago. Let's see, Telltale Games delayed The Wolf Among Us Season 2 to 2019, blaming fundamental changes at the studio. Would those fundamental changes be perhaps maybe they're finally gonna fix that engine and make some improvements? I don't know if I should keep Morgan Webb or mute her. Is she ever gonna say anything useful? I think the answer to that is probably no. I think, like, I don't think Adam Sessler or Morgan Webb are ever coming back as far as being important to the video game industry.
That's incredible.
Let's see. There's a Chinese game on Steam that will... I'm gonna definitely try to look at all these games before we stream on Monday. 3 men involved in a swatting that led to the death of a Kansas man are now facing federal charges. That's good to hear. I'd like to see every single person who's ever swatted get caught and thrown in jail, and it become very well known so that nobody ever thinks that they can get away with it at all. Apparently Injustice 2, a mobile, has a special promotion for Memorial Weekend. Who doesn't? Of course, I assume it's only Memorial Weekend in the United States. Maybe a couple other countries.
That's incredible.
4 hours ago, Star Wars The Force Unleashed 2, Episode 9 aired. Let's see, YouTube creators. Whatever you want to learn to speak English like an American, or just find it interesting to hear how weird American English actually is. So YouTube creators is retweeting something called Perfect English, the most important English words. I imagine it's a joke. Who is this guy? No, there's some other people too that maybe I should mute. More and more I'm trying to mute creators of video games in favor of companies of video games.
That's incredible.
People that would only post something specifically about the game and not post other kind of pointless side comments.
That's incredible.
Keep on scrolling down. 5 hours ago, Assassin's Creed Revelations number 3 aired on my channel. That is an interesting question. How long have we been streaming? We had a interesting about 3 hours and 42 minutes, so why does half of these things look new when they were from 5 hours ago? Okay, play this and this.
That's incredible.
And give me something to play. I would have done better killing this guy. I really don't like the Steam spring cleaning event. It's really a waste of bandwidth, because 99.9% of people are just going to install these games, play them for a second, and then exit out. And it doesn't feel like it's going to turn. Gamasutra has the divide between consumers and game designers. That would be an interesting article. I wonder from what perspective that would be written. Yeah, so yeah, most people are just going to install old games and waste bandwidth, and it's not going to push too many people over the edge past the 2-hour mark to make them not be able to seek refunds, and I don't even think that's a realistic reason for them to do the spring cleaning event. I imagine they just thought it would be a good form of advertising. So I'm scrolling down Twitter just to see if I might hit the point on Twitter where they start showing me new content below the 8+ hours of content I've already seen. Which this is now how Steam's YouTube's subscribe feed is working. So you go to your subscription feed, and there's a good chance you're not going to be able to see the most recent things until you look at what YouTube wants you to see first. The game Hacknet Gold Edition, I believe, is free for 24 hours at the Humble Store, so check that out. It's a hacking simulation game that I think everybody was worth playing at once, giving it a try. It's not there. It's like Uplink, but a newer version of it, so slightly different. And the thing about Twitter's feed, and I've never seen actually this happen for YouTube, but Twitter's feed will sometimes just spin forever trying to load more content, and then you just have to reload the page, and it will definitely end. Borderlands is giving out some shift codes for Memorial Day. It's Borderlands, and if you follow them on Twitter and Facebook, we'll give out shift codes all the time to get you keys to get guns. I'm gonna have so many of those. It's gonna be ridiculous. And in the process of playing Borderlands 2, whenever I get around to doing that, there will be a point where I have even more shift codes after the beginning. Little Witch Academia's game was reviewed and not well. We kind of had already figured that out. The Video Game Museum is showing off a pocket sonar attachment for the Game Boy. Several companies made like specialized attachments for the Game Boys. Really low processor, but it was cheap. It was mass produced, so it was a good processor to use. And then there was one tweet debating about whether you should take a Game Boy to a deserted island if you were going to get stuck there. I think, frankly, a Game Boy, you could probably make batteries out of coconuts or something, or lemons, and play a Game Boy for a long period, where if you were to take like an Xbox One or a PS4 or something like that, you wouldn't be able to do anything with it. That being said, there's probably a lot better devices you could take with you, like a satellite phone if you're going to be deserted on an island. I'm still scrolling down Twitter, and I said like 15 minutes ago I have 15 minutes to get through all the news, and I still couldn't do it. I have not been able to find any way to control or even guesstimate how much time it's going to take to cover a specific game. Like, I'm trying to speed it up as much as possible, but it's just going on and on and on. And I hit the bottom of Twitter, and so that's all the news I've got to say. So that's going to be it for this stream, at least the talking portion of it. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even more, gift me a game on Steam or gift me a gift card. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.